towards the wonderful meal that's sponsored for us last night.
Audio?
All right. Thank you very much. I second that. Next item on our agenda is we're going to pick up where we left off. Meeting location. Now, I believe that it had been moved by Rich Bowen to have the meeting at the Hilton in DC.
That was moved by Mr. Ford.
Mr. Ford. And there had been an amendment, but the amendment didn't get a second. And then we ended up where we're at right now, which is back at the original motion. Is that correct?
Now, I think Mr. Cowan would like to start.
My motion,
making
which
make an
didn't
amendment.
get a second, I think, is I'd like to say DC area as opposed to DC.
Okay.
So we can go to Arlington if we need
So
to.
we're starting off with Ford's motion, and now you are amending it to say DC area.
Correct.
Okay, there we are. It's been seconded. Okay, any discussion? Yes.
I am in agreement with the amendment as well as, believe we should probably amend as well to add a range of dates, right? Or should we select one or more potential dates to receive RFPs about, since we may or may not be staying at the Hilton. We might be staying at other locations, so we should request dates. And we also had a suggestion from Ms. Houston that we do mid-July, if I recall correctly.
And may I speak to that briefly? And I think, Todd, I'd also welcome you if you have any comments here. I think many organizations organize board meetings at the end of a quarter so that we can look at quarterly results. If we want to do that, it would allow us to, I would recommend a weekend in which there's enough time for the quarter to end, for us to compile numbers, get them out to everyone in advance. And I think we have a much more rich discussion that way. We don't have to have it at that time, but then it makes it more of a planning meeting for the next quarter as opposed to looking back at performance. Does that make sense?
It does. Mr. Nana?
All that I personally request is that we don't do it the 28th, 29th, and 30th. Because that's of July. That's the regional event.
Pretty far out.
So you're going to have myself and Randall.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
I'm sorry that, again, my voice, speaking to the amendment, Mr. Cowan's amendment. I'm going to speak against it, and I might do an amendment to it, depending on how it's received. I think it's important that we have it at the hotel we're having the convention at. I'm only amenable to the DC area if it's impossible to have it at the hotel. Right now, this is just kind of very loosey-goosey. I've been on the LNC since 2016. When we have the pre-convention meetings, we always have it at the hotel. The DC area doesn't cut it for me because we don't get to experience the hotel. The Convention Oversight Committee and the LNC can notice flaws and things that we need to address by actually having to be there. Going and doing another little site visit like we already did, to me, then we might as well not have it in DC. We need to have it at the Hilton unless it's impossible. Obviously we can't do the impossible. So I'm voting against the amendment unless it gets reworded, amended by somebody else to say at the DC Hilton, unless impossible, then in the DC area. But I don't like it not being heavily weighted towards the DC Hilton because there's no point.
Okay, so let's clarify first. With this motion, it still includes the possibility of having it at the DC Hilton.
I agree with everything she said about the priority. I mean, certainly I want to go to DC Hilton. I'm just saying if it's impossible, we don't want to limit ourselves to downtown Washington.
Well,
But that's not what the amendment says.
Hold on, let me see. There were multiple hands up. Who has not spoken yet? We got Mike Rufo, we got Donovan Pankey, okay. All right, let's start here and we're gonna go around.
So would it be appropriate to offer an amendment right now where we could just say, to have it in the DC area with the priority being, and then the name of the hotel?
If you think it's necessary.
I think
You
for
can do
clarity,
that.
I think for clarity, we should express our intent in any motion that we make.
Okay,
So
so now
I
let
think
me,
it's necessary.
before you make that motion, we have
Okay.
not included dates. And we're one amendment deep right now, right? So if we go 2 amendments deep, that's it. And then we're gonna need another motion for the dates. So let's think about it before you craft it. I'm not opposed, I'm just
Right.
informing you. You want to?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
No, you're good, right, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Pankey?
I don't think we need to put any extra clarifying language. This body can always amend something previously adopted. So if it's impossible, we can always, somehow we go on the Hilton and just the Hilton can't be done at that time, we can always select a different location on the email list. So I don't think that there's any need to have to put, backups or any other policy. I think we can just go right at, we're going to do the DC Hilton. And if really crazy stuff happens, then we deal with it then.
Okay. Mr. Ford and then Mr. Belcher.
If I could ask Mr. Bowen, if it's okay to ask Mr. Bowen a question. The efficacy of, all right, Hilton sold out. There's a taxidermist convention there that weekend, okay? How important is it, in your mind, to be as close as possible so that we can do a class trip, if you will, on the Magic Bus to the Hilton?
Yeah, for me, I agree with Ms. Harlow. I want to have it at the DC Hilton. I'm going to do everything I can to deal with the people I deal with to make sure we can have it at the DC Hilton. But as you said, there could be in the summer weekends, they may not have availability. It's only, 3-4 months away, whatever the time frame is, and there's no guarantee. I would hope that they will find a way.
And just
So I agree with Ms. Harlow's, and I'll stop there.
Ms. Houston and then Mr. Rupert.
But I had a comment.
I just want.
What I wanted to say was,
Follow-up question?
I've actually changed my mind. I'm happy with the way the original wording is because, as Mr. Pankey said, we can always change that if we need to.
Okay,
Just one follow-on question.
I'll be voting against the.
amendment.
Mr. Bowen, do you anticipate, what if we run into a situation where there is availability, but it's DC and we're all of a sudden looking at $300 room rates?
I'm
Because-
getting there. Yeah, I'm getting
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Okay, let's.
Yeah, that's.
Yes, if I may humbly offer to the committee, we are trying to architect very precise language to force a decision which can be resolved alternatively. If everyone here expresses that their wishes are to go to the Hilton and that's the purpose for going to DC, I'd recommend we make a motion or approve this in the DC area. That allows us the flexibility for your staff to honor this vision, that is very easy for us to do, with the ability for us to come back with price information and availability information, and we can make educated decisions. So if you believe that your staff understands these wishes, it seems very clear to me why we are doing this. I don't think we need to go waste valuable talking time today, which we would use on other things, to nitpick the exact language of the hotel. And if it's impossible, what does impossible mean? What is the pricing? The committee does not have the information to be able to give a constraint, so let's just make it broad and we get your intentions. That's what I would say.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Rupo, then our secretary, then we go.
Oh. I think we should probably pick dates right now.
Okay,
yes.
I was going to say, we should look at the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's the weekend after 4th of July. I think going there the weekend of 4th of July is a mistake because it'll probably be more expensive.
We're on a Cohen amendment right now.
But we were talking about amending it again.
But until it's actually amended again, talking about amending it isn't particularly in order.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Madam Secretary, then we're going to Miguel Duque and then Dustin Young.
Okay. As I said, when it came to New Mexico, for everyone on the West Coast to go to DC is $600 trip. I personally am not particularly thrilled about spending that money if we're not going to the DC Hilton. I am in favor of the first motion. I am not voting for anything that doesn't specify the DC Hilton. If it turns out to be impossible, and I don't think we need to sit here and talk about what impossible is. Like the sweet asteroid of death can come and we don't have to worry about any of it. But for those of us on the West Coast, you're asking us to spend a considerable amount of money, and the whole purpose is so that we can get a feel for the convention center. If this LNC doesn't want to do this, then just pay to send the convention committee out there and let us take care of it. And forget about having an LNC meeting there. But if we're going to have an LNC meeting, it needs to be at the Hilton. I'm not voting for anything that doesn't say the DC Hilton.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Being that I understand that staff is going to, use their very best judgment with regard to dates and conflicts such as 4th of July, Freedom Fest, and other things, and then inform us of the results. And also that we really need to breeze through a lot of business today and call all questions.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to call all questions. Any objections to calling all questions?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make an amendment.
All right, no, we're doing a vote on calling questions then, because we're 11 minutes in on this agenda item. We've got 4 minutes left. All in favor of calling question, please raise your hand. All opposed? Please raise your hand. Okay. Question callers have it. Okay, we're going to a vote on the amendment. And
Can we restate
do
it,
you
please?
mind doing a roll call vote on this one? Okay.
Next,
That's them.
No, no,
There'll be
the
a vote on
question
the
right now is
amendment
the
first.
Cohen amendment.
Right.
Correct.
I called all questions.
Right, and I'm
Right.
doing
So
the
you have to
Cohen
do an
amendment
ordinance
first.
And then we're going to jump straight to the main motion.
Yes,
Duplicate.
if the secretary can kind of restate them, or what is the current amendment, please?
Okay, so the current question is, Mr. Cohen,
Cowan,
excuse me, I keep doing that to you, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Mr. Cowan moved to amend the forward motion so that we'd be moved to have the next LNC meeting in the DC area,
and the prior language was,
at the DC Hilton.
thank you.
So it was striking DC Hilton and inserting DC area. So that's the amendment. Mr. Cowan,
I vote yes for my amendment.
Mr. Blankenship,
No.
Mr. Bowen,
And with apologies to Mr. Callen from our previous discussion, I vote no.
Mr. Duque,
No.
Mr. Clark,
No.
Mr. Elliott,
Abstain?
Mr. Ford,
No.
Mr. Pankey,
No.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I'm voting no. Mr. Nana,
Abstain.
Mr. Nikela,
No.
Mr. Rufo,
No.
Mr. Tunjevich,
Yes,
Mr. Watkins.
No.
3 yes, 10 no, 2 express abstentions.
Okay, the noes have it. We are going to go to a vote on the main motion as soon as our secretary is ready.
Just clear out these votes.
Would you like me to call that one? Should I stay?
Yeah, no, you can do it, and let me just put the language up here. So Mr. Crumb's going to do this one, so it's that third copy of copy, you know.
This is, starts with Mr. Ford.
Yes.
Is everything in that needs to be in?
Mhm.
Okay, Mr. Blankenship.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have to start
Point of
with Mr.
information,
Callan.
point of information. Could you just read it again for everybody? just to make
Sure.
Thank you.
Motion text, Mr. Ford moved to have the next LNC meeting at the DC Hilton. We'll start with Mr. Cowan.
Yes,
Mr. Blankenship.
Yes.
Mr. Bowen.
Yes.
Mr. Duque.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Abstain.
Mr. Elliott.
Abstain.
Mr. Ford.
Yes.
Mr. Pankey.
yes,
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
Ms. Harlos.
Yes.
Mr. Nana.
Yes.
Mr. Michaela.
Yes.
Mr. Rufo.
Yes.
Help me here.
Tunjevich.
Mr. Tunjevich.
yes,
And Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
We have 12 yes, 0 no's, and 2 abstains. I'm sorry, 13 yeses.
All right, motion passes. So we're having our next meeting at the DC Hilton. We need to pick some dates, but time on this agenda item has expired.
We would extend it
Mr.
to
Neal.
5
Extend
minutes.
by 5 minutes.
Has it been seconded?
Second.
Who was that?
Second.
Thank you.
Point
Yes.
of inquiry, I guess. My motion never discussed date. I never intended to have that original motion discuss the date. I
Okay.
thought that was something we could find out on email, what people's restrictions were going to be for that time period of mid-July to mid-August. So we can discuss it if everybody wants to, but we have a lot on the agenda.
Okay.
And my motion never specifically did not mention time because of that. Thank you.
Who's next? Mr. Hagopian, and then, okay.
Motion to set the next LNC meeting for a date to be decided between July 7th and July 24th.
But we just had a motion to extend time that never.
Correct. Okay,
I believe that was
any
Mr.
objections to
Nana.
extending time? No? Going once, going twice? Okay, we've extended time by 5 minutes. Okay, now,
Motion to set the next LNC meeting for a date to be decided on the email list between July 7th and July 24th. 2023.
I'm gonna ask our.
Yeah, if I
When is
may,
spring fest?
y'all have 3 options of when you can have it, and I think Todd's got the exact right date range. Unless you want to have it in June, July 8th, that's the weekend in between 4th of July and Freedom Fest. Freedom Fest is the next weekend. The one after that is the next available time.
When is Freedom Fest?
Freedom Fest is the weekend of 14, 15, 16.
I will not be at the LNC meeting, 14, 15, and 16. I will be fundraising at Freedom Fest.
So those are probably the 2 options, the weekend of July 7th, and the weekend of July 21st.
Okay, can we do a dates that everybody's available online? Okay, and if we need to move it online, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on Mr. Hagopian's motion? Going once, going twice? Okay, let's go to a roll call vote.
We just got that over for you, Mr.
While we're waiting for the ballot to be ready, what, Lainey said 3 options?
So it's the 3, okay, so there's July 7th, 8th, 9th. What are the other 2?
The other option is the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and or June. I guess to be fair, the 28th, 29th, 30th would also work. Mr. Dustin's.
Starts with Mr. Hagopian.
Okay. And August, that's not part of the motion. Why would we want?
She said she wanted to
Our
get the end of the
executive
quarter.
director will put the dates on the list. Okay, so whenever you guys are ready, we'll do.
All right, motions, Mr. Hagopian has moved to set the next LNC meeting for the dates between 7/7 and 7/24 on the LNC list. Mr. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship.
Yes.
Oh, why is it doing that? I just want to. Sorry, guys, it's my fault. Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Duquesne,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Pankey,
Abstain?
Mr. Hagopian,
Yes.
Ms. Harlos,
Yes.
Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nicola,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo.
Abstain.
God, I'm gonna need to hear it again, I'm sorry. How's that name pronounced?
Oh,
Tunyevich.
Mr. Tunyevich.
Tunyevich, I'm so,
Tune, yeah, pitch.
Mr.
That's simple.
Tunyevich.
Yes.
And Mr. Watkins.
Abstain.
Okay. Can you scroll down a little bit? There you go. The yeses have it.
So the motion passes. Thank you. Our executive director is going to put the dates on the list, and we can have glorious chaos break forth from that point, and then we'll figure it out.
Email chaos is okay.
Yep, I'll have a motion if so needed.
And
Okay.
Mr. Crum, just FYI, if you go to the top of live notes, I have a phonetic tune bitch. So you can always look there.
And Cowan, and Cowan.
And Cowan.
Yeah, for yourself.
Let's also get that for Ms. Yanuskavich.
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, I will, but to me, hers always has been easy.
I have no issue.
Thrilled my name is not the most difficult.
My last name is McGriddle.
Yes.
McGriddle. I love a McGriddle.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is, where the heck is it? I believe it is Region 7 report by Mr. Panther.
I am feeling quite a bit better, so.
Mr. Bowen, do you mind being our timekeeper?
I am. We'll take care of it. And you will hear a little beep when time is up instead of me interrupting.
I love that we'll get a beat. That's helpful. Just let it keep beeping.
All right. So just as a reminder to everyone, the Region 7 is comprised of Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Oklahoma, and the great state of Texas. Starting off with Arkansas, so they have a convention coming up April 22nd, which will be held at, so that's when they'll have any officer elections and so forth. For their growth, they have been trying to leverage their candidate recruiting campaigns and building affiliates, running in areas that were not formally organized. So the ballot access story, they've been in discussion with the ballot access committee. There is legislation of various types that they're trying to get passed and get around that may hinder their ballot access in Arkansas. And so they've been working with the ballot access committee on that. They've had a couple of money bombs in January and February. And their biggest request is, and I think that you'll see this a lot from all of Region 7 and maybe from other regions, is just making sure that we are staying up to date on CRM asks. They have a lot of areas where they need help in being able to get some of their fundraising activities and other things set up inside of their state site. So they really ask that we work diligently to make sure that we take care of those requests. In Louisiana, they have a new congressional District 2 rep on their executive committee, who is Boyd Smith. They have a 1% increase in registrations, libertarian registrations, and they have a couple of elections that they have, a couple of candidates that they have running for election. Ron Denecia for governor, and Heidi Alejandro Smith for Louisiana State Rep District 90. So, and they'll talk more about, we'll be able to report more on those candidacies in the next quarter. We did not receive a report from Missouri. For Oklahoma, we have a new chair, Chris Powell, who was elected at the Oklahoma State Convention that happened last week. I was happy enough and proud to attend that convention. So it was an awesome event. It was absolutely wonderful hearing from what they're doing in the community. They have great leadership in being able to handle issues like, substance abuse and harm reduction. And they really do get out there in their communities and really try to help people as opposed to just talking about stuff. It was very, very refreshing. So they have that, a new board. The convention was incredibly non-divisive and smooth. So it was very good to see a very coordinated and unified affiliate there. They have a city council race. Kyle King ran unopposed for a seat on Thomas City Council. So now they have 9 elected officials in Oklahoma. And Councilman Chad Williams is running for re-election. Mary Longhurst is running for re-election in Alva. So if Longhurst is successful, she'll join Troy Brooks, and Alva will be the first political body to feature multiple libertarians in the city. So. For ballot access, they have good known ballot access through 2026, and we'll make sure to keep an eye on the statewide races there. In Texas, we hired a new development director. We've been working to add more county affiliates. Texas has an enormous number of counties, and so we're always working every cycle to make sure that we're bringing new counties online. Ballot access. So evidently the state of Texas has decided that third parties are bad things. And so the Republicans in the Texas state legislature have decided that they're going to file multiple different bills in multiple different ways to try to remove third parties from the ballot, from minor things like changing thresholds to major things like banning all convention parties. So we're really working hard. It's legislative season. This quarter is the big legislative quarter for Texas. So the session runs through this quarter, and that'll be it. So we have a lot of boots on the ground in Austin right now, lobbying every single day to make sure that good libertarian bills such as marijuana decriminalization, cannabis decriminalization, and and ballot access, bad bills, all head out our way through the Texas legislature. So really working hard, lots of lobby days on that. We just had last night, obviously, the eminent domain protest. That there were some pictures that were listed on that protest. I was really happy to see the diverse number of libertarians that all showed up at that event to protest. It was really good to see. It's not only great to see us, help out a small business owner who's in danger of having their stuff taken from the state. It's great to see the fact that libertarians are across our diverse array of personalities and temperaments. We're able to unify, get together, and all sit down there together and protest. It's awesome to see. And the largest ask, once again, from Texas is also in the Civic Department, trying to make sure that we keep up with requests and making sure that the states have good communication and management with staff to keep the stuff rolling. So that is the Region 7 report. Any questions?
How many people were at the protest?
We had over 100 show up to that protest.
And where are the pictures?
I'll forward you. I can forward them to the list. Some of the pictures to the list.
Yeah, no, because I've been very, very interested in this. So, and how do we keep up to date? Like, what's going on next with that property?
So, that should be on the list. So the city council had voted on it, had voted to try to take it. It had to, I believe there had to be a state action. And so we're continue to lobby in Austin to try to make sure that is listed as not, actually not capturable statewide and for eminent domain.
Okay, yeah, please do keep updating those, because if there ends up being like a hearing or something, I think we can motivate people to come down to Texas to show up for it. I certainly would try to go down there to show up, to protest the Capitol or whatever. I think this, there was a comment on that thread, which I just thought was wonderful, sad, but wonderful, where it said, "Congratulations, Ms. Buckingham, you've united the Mises and the anti-Mises people, which no one has ever been able to do." So she's been a unifying figure in her awfulness. So I would like to continue to unify us around something we all hate, the state.
Absolutely.
So we're out of time on that. Thank you, Mr. Pankey.
next we have reports of standing committees. I believe ballot access is next for 10 minutes, Mr. Nana.
How difficult would it be to kind of plug into your laptop?
HDMI, do you need this?
It has USB-C, USB. We have USB-C, the dongle. I don't know if it'll, I've never tried to do audio video through my USB-C.
Can I grab that? We've got a little jingle, that's a good sign.
Yeah, the USB-C. HDMI, USB.
Can I open up your display settings real quick? Yeah, there's that. Here, go ahead. There you go.
Excellent, thanks, my friend.
Yep.
All right, so ballot access committee report. I'll get this on the OneDrive in a second. I've been editing it this morning. But the ballot access committee met on March, gosh, when did we meet? It was very recently, March 6th, to discuss the alteration of the states that we had currently not had ballot access in November, the difference between that and where we currently do not have ballot access as of March 6th. So the list, I apologize, is kind of broken up by 2 pages here.
It's not really readable.
It's not big, yeah, here. Let me see if I can do
Single page.
No?
It's at least bigger now.
On the bottom right-hand side, you can scroll to zoom in.
Yeah, there it is.
I just wanted to show one page at a time, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to.
The slider, right?
The slider would do it too, but
Whatever, it messed up the formatting, it's still not bigger. All right, hold on, I'll just zoom in manually. Sorry, guys.
No. Do it.
Enhance.
Enhance. Let me get out of the same layout here. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Don't ever let me give a presentation on my laptop.
Boomer.
Aha.
Hey. Yeah, it looks better. All right, throw it up.
Okay, so these are potential ballot access requests by state in alphabetical order. I'll explain the legend to you now because it's kind of confusing. And I probably need to come up with a better way to do this. But states in white are states that we don't have plans to do a drive-in right now, but we might do a drive in the future. States in yellow are states that we anticipate probably at least trying to do a drive-in, but aren't going to be able to start immediately for one reason or another. States in red are going to be states that are extremely cost prohibitive and or states that we don't anticipate having to spend LNC funds to get them on the ballot. We believe that they can do all volunteer effort. So that being said, you guys need me to stay on this one or can I go to the next half? Any questions about these top ones, I suppose?
So red is self-sustained?
Red is either self-sustained or extremely cost prohibitive, and we're gonna have to get creative to get it done.
And yellow is what again?
And yellow is our states that we anticipate possibly doing something in, but we can't start immediately for one reason or another, and I can go into detail when I get down there.
I can't see what's in red very well.
What state is that?
Minnesota, yeah, I don't know why I didn't change the font to white. Let me see if I can get
A little better. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Zoom in it, yeah. No, and then you just scroll down.
Go like one state at a time, just zoom in so you can see one.
Okay, yeah, you know what?
Scrolling
It might take us a while, but that's a good suggestion. Let's just go like one state at a
Yeah.
time. So Alabama. Alabama did not retain. So right now in Alabama, we would either have to collect signatures worth 3% of the votes cast for governor in the previous election, which is 42,459. And then a candidate for state office would have to receive at least 20% of the total votes cast for that office to retain. Or we can get our president on as an independent candidate, a presidential candidate, as with 500 signatures. And that, those two costs are kind of broke down.
5,000?
Or, yeah, 5,000 signatures. I think I said two. So any questions about Alabama?
I'm
gonna have
Yes.
a bunch of questions at the end.
As
Dustin Ford, Mr. Nana, we invested a lot of money in Alabama, and
We did.
And I'm not ever going to put it, not going there. But just, how close did we come? Was the polling helpful?
I think we got to around 15-ish in one of them.
15%.
So we got pretty close. Now, Alabama, and I should probably put this in the report, but Alabama is a state that committee members have expressed as a place where we might try to lobby. 20% retention is, as far as I understand, one of the highest, if not the highest in the country. So I think it's ripe for lobbying to at least reduce that retention somewhat. I mean, even if it was 10%, we would have hit it. But I don't think that the party is going to be able to do a statewide drive again after just doing one. It's pretty cost prohibitive.
Right.
But of course, we want our presidential candidate on there. Yes, Mr. Carter.
So one of the things that happened in Alabama that went wrong is there was a large prominent caucus called the Black Caucus that had pledged support to all of the candidates, and they were going to send out a mailer in support. They were formerly associated with the Democratic Party, and then they left and they're an independent. And at the last minute, they reneged on their commitment and still asked the Alabama LP for money. Had that endorsement gone through with voter guides mailed out, I'm confident that they would have reached 20%, but they did not. So that is really unfortunate.
Justin, for the 3% for the governors, is that an option on the table, or what's our history with the governor race in Alabama?
That would be the amount of signatures we'd have to collect without access. 3% of the votes cast.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I'm on Ballotpedia, and we got 45,827 votes for governor at 3.3%.
Okay, so let me re-explain this because I guess I was not clear enough. So in order to get full party ballot access for any candidate that wants to run under the libertarian label, we would have to petition and gather signatures equal to 3% of the votes cast for governor in the previous election. That number is 42,459. The retention after we do that would be to get 20% of the total votes cast in a statewide office to retain.
We have 5 minutes left on this
Oh,
agenda.
my bad, I understand.
Yeah. We're definitely gonna fix that.
Yeah, guys, sorry. This is what the ballot access committee does, is go state by state. What Dustin should do is give a quick summary and then highlight the hardest ones, and we can talk about those.
So a quick request for information, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is it not correct that two states require us to complete ballot access this year, Arkansas and North Dakota?
So I'll just talk about Arkansas because we're about to talk about Arkansas. The courts struck down the petitioning period in Arkansas. Right now, in the legislature is Senate Bill 277. I think Mr. Pankey touched on this.
Yes, it did.
Right now, if it passes as is, it's 10,000 signatures is what it used to be, same number. But the signature period ends in February of 2024. And then we have to get 3% governor or president to retain, which is what it always was. So all they changed is the petitioning period, which is what the court struck down. So the state is trying to lobby the legislature to reduce the retention rate at least.
So the current end of the petitioning period is indeed the February 2024?
That's correct. Well, if it passes, I suppose they could amend it. Yeah, that would be if it passed today.
If not, it's the end of this year?
No, the petitioning period restriction got struck down. So I imagine no matter what, it's probably going to be February of 2024.
Thank you very
Otherwise,
much.
they are not in compliance with the court order.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna take Mr. Hagopian's advice and just kind of put this up on the screen for a little bit and not go state by state because it'll take us an hour.
And it's in the one, did you send it to me?
I gotta figure out how to send the video to you. It's like a 2-hour video and my computer.
No, I meant
is
this.
very active. No, not yet, because I've been editing it this morning.
Oh, okay. It's not the one though, then.
No, it's not. That's why I'm doing this. I apologize. So I'm gonna go over all the states that are either in yellow or green. I will give a detailed report on. Otherwise, ask questions about other states. And I'll move on in a second.
You said yellow or green?
Yellow and green are states that I have broken down individually and will give an oral summary of today.
Is there a green color in your ledger? Because you've got yellow and red.
Not yet.
It's coming.
Further down.
Dustin? Just
Yes, Mr.
a
Ford.
point on Maine. The hearing, there's legislation pending, as I mentioned yesterday, to reduce the amount to 5,000. That hearing is actually this Wednesday, which I will be attending and will provide video.
Yeah, we'll keep close tabs on that. Any other questions about states on the screen right now? I'm gonna go forward. All right. Any questions about states on this screen that are not in green? I'm gonna talk about them in a second.
New York.
Yeah.
Yep.
Two developments. One, I have to talk about an executive conference. There is legislation pending to reduce that to 15,000 signatures.
Yep, and we've heard that, but as of right now.
Right.
Fortunately.
We've heard that for a couple of years.
Yep. Any questions about the states not in green? Okay.
Oh, sorry, your pricing for New York petitioning, I assume that's what that's for?
Yeah, so
Assumes
these
what kind of-
prices, just to let you guys know, these prices are what we would pay if we had zero assistance. Now, obviously, that's not real, but it would be hard to make a realistic estimate on what it would cost without knowing what the state would put in, without knowing what the state would put in volunteer-wise, et cetera.
What is your per required signature estimate?
Per signature, for raw signature, it's $5. Per valid signature, $8.
Thank you. Good.
I'm just gonna move on. Any questions about states here that are not in, well, I guess it could be about any of these, because neither of these are green or yellow. Not hearing anything. All right. So what's new to this report is a total of, what I did was I aggregated all the states that we may do things in. So that would be anything that's white, green, or yellow, and those two totals are down here. So you can tell it's significantly lower than it was. This total would be everything with no help plus a 10% overrun. This total would be everything with no help in states that we anticipate possibly having to insist in to get our candidate on the ballot for 24.
Madam Chair, we're at time.
Okay, I'm gonna move to extend by 15 minutes.
Okay, I think we can cover it.
Any
now.
objections? Going once, going twice, hearing no, yes? Is there an objection?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought we were done.
All right, time is extended.
15?
Yep.
Thank you.
So as far as fundraising goes, you know, what's our timeline looking like quarterly to get us to where we need to be?
I think we're gonna have a little bit more realistic number after the next couple of ballot access meetings. We probably we're gonna need to have several 100,000 at least. Because a lot of those states in white are gonna have to be done at least partially by the LNC to make sure our presidential candidate gets on, like Ohio. I mean, we could empty our entire bank account to put the candidate on in 24. I have a feeling the board's not gonna wanna do that.
Isn't Ohio an independent state for us, for presidential?
Yeah, but it's still 5,000 signatures,
Gotcha.
so,
Executive Director.
yes, ma'am.
Quick question, maybe this is coming later. I know that one way to do this is to do a comprehensive overview of all of the states, understand how a signature tactic or petition tactic would work, a lobbying tactic would work, a legal tactic would work. We have a budget for how much ballot access is allotted this year. It's $250,000. Has the committee done the work to prioritize top dollars should be spent on this state, second this state, third, and so on and so forth, to up to the 250?
We will have realistic budget requests from the states in green at least within the next few weeks.
Okay.
We have a meeting on the 20th, and then we're gonna have a subsequent meeting 2 weeks after that, and we plan to meet every 2 weeks through the foreseeable future.
So are the green states the top top tier?
That is
not
correct.
sector?
Those are the top tier as identified by the committee and we just had, so to preface, we just had the first meeting with this iteration of the committee this past Monday.
And so one more question, if I could. What is the total amount for the greens? Is it
I can
higher or
give-
lower than 250K?
It should be lower.
And I'll just level set everybody on the budget, so please remember that ballot access spans 2 budget years. Only 250,000 is for this budget year. We'll have additional money open up next budget year. In the previous LNC, nothing, $0 was spent the year prior to the election. So we have budgeted $250,000 additional over last time. However, we do have a bigger step to get there, so we are going to need some of that money. But after hearing the first meeting, I'm fairly comfortable. The 250 is more than enough for this year, and then next year we will need a much bigger chunk. Is that
That's, yeah, because we're gonna have a lot of states where we're gonna have to put our presidential candidate on. A lot of states that we can't even petition, like we just legally can't do it right now. All right, so unfortunately, Rhode Island did not retain, so they're back on the list, but they're not a huge signature requirement. So the states that were highlighted, we talked about Arkansas, so I probably don't need to talk too much about this. We had originally, in the last iteration of the committee, targeted Arkansas as a first priority state. But since Mr. Paco and the rest of the state have decided they want to try to lobby this law, they've told us that to hold off kind of a little bit and see what they can get done. And I don't even think we can petition today because there's no law governing how to actually do it. But, so we're gonna respect the state party and not jump in there and try to do a drive without their permission. So that's kind of moved from green tier to yellow, which is a little bit different than the last meeting we had, which was previous to this one. The main party wants to do a voter registration drive. I think Mr. Ford talked about it briefly yesterday. They currently have roughly 1,500 registrations, which leaves a gap of 8,500 or so. They have a fairly ambitious plan to gather these registrations, but the committee believes it a bit naive in terms of the estimate of volunteer efforts. And as it stands, this would be a pretty costly drive, but we need to gather more information and see what their volunteer effort actually turns out to be. The good thing about this state is they have all year to do it. So they have all the way till December 31st to get those registrations before the clock runs out. So we'll see what happens. We're going to keep in close contact with them. If we see that they're doing an excellent job in getting a lot of voter registrations and that gap becomes much smaller, I think it's very feasible for us to help close it.
Maine has been doing significant aid fundraising in order to self-support. They are, and I invite offline comments for people that are actually looking to hire someone to run the registration process. They couldn't, they've raised about $30,000 of their own money. So they're fighting again this week. We've got a legitimate shot at lowering to 5,000. And they've got a lot of efforts planned going forward. So they're working it. Any ideas on who can manage voter registration drive? Contact me directly, please.
I have an idea who can do it. Well, we'll talk offline. So New Mexico, unless there's any questions on Maine, I'm going to move on to New Mexico. All right, New Mexico, the committee anticipates we may need to run a petition drive here depending on how the Secretary of State treats the line in regard to our newly formed affiliate. So this drive would not be extremely cost prohibitive. It would be pretty low stress. So I'm confident we would succeed if we need to do it. Once we know if we have to do it, which is kind of what we're waiting on now, we can interface with the state party to determine their contributions and develop a realistic budget. Right now, I just have it as if we haven't run it all. I don't know what their financial state looks like or any of that right now, or what their anticipated volunteer effort would be. And I don't want to find those things out until we know whether or not we need to do it, because it's entirely possible that the Secretary of State says, no, you guys are the Libertarian Party, you have this ballot line. Oh, we just don't know, so. The last state here is North Dakota. North Dakota is raising money to conduct a drive here and seems committed to making it happen. So this would be the most likely place that we can start as close to immediately as possible. As soon as it warms up there, petitioners will be willing to go there. And I will collaborate, the committee will collaborate with North Dakota to determine their volunteer and financial contribution, and then we can develop a working budget. So just to add to that, I tend to make this a living document. I'll add this piece to the previous report, and I will just keep editing it over time. And then like, I don't know where best would be to put it so that you guys can constantly access it. But waiting between now and the next in-person meeting, a lot of stuff's gonna change. You guys might have questions and I wanna let you know what's going on. So I'm gonna put it in a place, I guess the drive.
Yeah, I'll get a place for it to live,
Okay.
then the committee can always view it, and you can edit it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
you have enough manpower on the ballot access committee to help you figure all of this stuff out?
It's gonna be a lot of work.
Yep.
Probably not.
Okay.
In the near term, because here's what's slowing me down right now, at least personally. I need to figure out all of the different petitioning periods for all of the states. I also need to be able to run these drives. Now that piece I think we can handle. Through Bill Redpath, myself, and other committee members who might be local to the states that we're running drives in, I think we can handle that.
Yep.
But this first investigative piece,
Data.
figuring out, the dates, and then also just kind of staying on top of anything that changes.
Okay.
I'm gonna lean on region reps to inform me of
Okay.
changes, but
So I'm gonna reconstitute an ad hoc ballot access committee to just help with the data collection.
and I don't think we have any advisors right now, so if you
We
wanna just.
do have advisors, but I need more people to express an appetite in being advisors on the ballot access advisory committee. I've combed through some of the applications that were submitted. I need people with an interest in doing the work. That's as politely as I can put it. I don't need everybody's just like random opinion. I need people who will actually dig in and perform research. So anyone on the live stream listening, please send me an email if you're interested in doing that to help our affiliates.
That pretty much sums up the report, and I will get you the numbers for just the greens and the greens plus the yellow here shortly.
Okay, and then I have already put you in touch with a couple of people who are interested in collaborating.
Yep.
Do you need help handling those relationships beyond the help that I'm gonna provide?
As long as they're willing to sit down and talk, that's
Okay.
fine. I'll talk to, the couple of folks that you sent over and
Yep.
see if maybe they're available to jump into a meeting sometime. And if not, I'll just talk to them separately when they're available and report back to the committee.
Okay, great. And then does anyone have relationships with the Green Party? I'm assuming Richard Winger, our
I do.
secretary.
At least through Colorado, but she's Linda, who came and spoke to us.
Can Linda connect us with people outside of Colorado?
Yes, I mean, I'm on constant emails with Howie.
Okay, so let's try to explore that relationship a little bit. I think the relationship I've cultivated with Jill Stein is also going to be helpful, but some of this is going to need to be at the state level, so we're going to need to get in touch with state level Green Party.
Yeah, between the RCV community,
Okay.
there's a lot of third-party collaboration going on there. So I do have relationships with Greens, and a few others, but mostly with the Greens.
Great. Start funneling those over to ballot access so we can start hammering things out.
I have a casual relationship with Jill Stein.
Okay,
So just what's a call to action? Just get Jill Stein in touch
it's
with us?
okay. I can handle that because we're on a good basis. So I appreciate that if I need additional collaboration.
Mr. Tadevich and then Mr. Mikhail.
Just a quick question. So I noticed on your prior page, it looked like we have 18 states currently without presidential ballot access.
Correct.
How does that compare, since you've served on the committee for a while, roughly this time, last time around?
We've definitely lost access in some states. I believe it's 3 that we've lost cumulatively,
In the 2020 or was
just
that
from November
2022?
to like now.
Okay,
Well, no, I'm talking about the prior election.
This is the worst shape we've been in since I've been at the party.
okay. I think one of the things that would be really helpful is for us to see what years we lost ballot access. Did it happen in 2020? Did it happen in 2022? Did it happen in some weird random off year thing due to legislation? That would help us decide our strategy as well.
I'm gonna need help to do that. That's
Okay.
that's a lot of research.
That's
work.
okay, then we're gonna find people to help you with the research.
Okay.
And Mr. Winger might know that
He
off the
might,
top of his
I
head.
might be able to ask Richard.
Ms. Houston.
Yes,
yesterday, we talked a lot about Scrum. I don't want anyone to feel like Scrum is a chore or something that's being imposed upon you. I think this would be an awesome way to help the committee, is us jumping in to be able to help you guys project manage all of the moving pieces. I know there's so many states and then there's so many variations and variables to go through. If you want to follow up offline about that or with this ad hoc committee, I'd love to figure out how we can help. I'm going to restate something from yesterday. We're at a point where we need to have information or to do effective fundraising. Generic is only going to take us so long, so if we can help get the resources faster, let me know.
You can definitively tell people that New Mexico, and well, not New Mexico yet, but North Dakota is going to be our most immediate future focus, so.
Great, and then to just follow up, that'd be great. What I would need to do is get briefed on why, so we could like spin it into why it's
Sure.
some information.
We'll talk offline about Scrum. I don't want to impose it on the committee, but I'm not opposed to doing it.
Awesome, thanks.
I'm gonna wait.
Okay. Anybody else, Mr. Bowen?
Yeah, I just thought you might, you started, but one of the things we did discuss at the meeting was what we can do in 2023. And there's actually, a lot of these states, we have to wait until 2024. But if you could reiterate what we're looking at in terms of 2023, I believe it was North Dakota and Maine was what we were really planning on working on this year.
And New Mexico depending,
And New Mexico depending. Thank you.
Anybody else? Not seeing anybody. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Guys, questions?
Okay, next agenda item is candidate support. And I believe that's going to be presented by Dustin Blankenship.
Do you need,
I don't need the projector because everything's in the OneNote.
okay.
See, we got one Dustin who does it the right way, one Dustin who doesn't.
Oh, wow.
The Dustin Caucus is now officially.
Factionalism in the Dustin
Caucus. So I have a relatively extensive report, so I'm going to hit the high notes since it's in the OneNote. There are a couple of motions that I would like to make out of the information raised here. So I'm going to reserve those till at the end, I think, but we'll see as we go through. So the first thing first, just to knock it out, the committee had an attendance issue with one of our own members. Mr. Hall has attended 2 committee meetings since the start of the candidate support committee. That's probably being on 2 committees twice a month. The candidate support committee started meeting last year, and he's only attended 2. In an attempt to give him time to collect himself and be able to attend correctly. That did not happen for this meeting. The committee felt that it was appropriate at that time to have a vote of no confidence, which was a unanimous passing. From that, I would say that currently our committee makeup is a bit of a concern. We lost our chair who resigned in November. Josh Thomas stepped up to be the chair, and then I was asked to be the vice chair of the committee. We've got a very passionate but small group of 4 active members of the committee to 5, depending on the week. There's a couple that probably filter in and out depending on passion. We are waiting for that one position to be filled. I know our chair will be appointing one. And actually, rather than wait to make the motion, I'm actually going to go ahead since it seems like this would probably be a good time to do so. From the committee, spoke with the chair this morning. We would like to move that Robley be removed from the candidate support committee so that another LNC member could be appointed who would be willing to be more active in that role. So I will make that motion personally now.
And I will second it after having spoken with Robley.
I don't know if there's a discussion. Yeah.
You said you spoke with Robley? He's aware of the situation?
I don't think he's aware that we're doing it in this meeting, but he's aware of the situation. I've spoken with him about it several times.
Okay.
And he said that he would step back if we found someone else willing to step up. I am at a point, and I've been very involved in this discussion, where we need him to step back so I can fill it, because this is not helping to facilitate. We need the role to be vacant so I can fill it.
Okay.
It's not this chicken or egg stuff.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to say that I appreciate that we're doing this sort of thing on an ongoing basis, not from a place of judgment or guilt, just purely from wanting to succeed.
It's
And,
nothing personal.
everyone can always reserve the right to decide, I don't have the bandwidth for this,
Sure.
and tap out, we're a team.
He's doing a lot of heavy lifting in his region.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's checked out. Okay, any discussion on that motion? We may need to go to a roll call vote. Okay, when our secretary is ready, we will go to a roll call vote on that. In the meantime, there was, I can't recall the individual's name, someone who'd expressed interest in joining the candidate support committee.
Yes, I reached out to Jacob Luria of Colorado.
Yes. Okay, when this is done, I'm going to appoint him.
Cool.
The vacancy is an LNC vacancy.
There's an additional vacancy.
Perfect.
We are trying furiously to catch up in this committee.
Okay.
Was
Just
there
give me 1
objection?
second.
Was there objection to this motion? Is there a need for a roll call vote?
On this type of motion, there is a need for a roll.
There was no objection, but we still have to, because
Okay, Mr. Palmer.
I'm trying to find the template or one you just set up.
It's 2023-311-04. It'll be the last one to the left.
If it be appropriate, I would just also note that the committee asked me to request the LNC to increase the membership numbers for non-LNC members on this committee. That's not something we're discussing for this motion, but just noting that if that's something that the body would like to consider. feel free to make the motion.
What's your current membership? How many people are there now?
So we actually lost quorum in the middle of the meeting about a month ago because we had, so we lost our chair, so that would have brought us down to 5 members. And then Robley had not been attending, which made it down to 4 members. And then so if anyone was sick or like we had a person that dropped in the middle of the meeting, and because we only had the 3, which was what we needed to meet the threshold of current members of the committee, when you lose the 1, now you're done. You don't have your makeup anymore. So it can be very frustrating, especially for those non-LNC members who are here because they're passionate about candidate support and they're seeing that they're not getting anything done. And it's important. I know I'm speaking to other things. I'm going to stop this.
If we're ready,
Yep.
if we're ready, let's begin.
The motion is to remove Robley Hall from the committee due to non-attendance so that another LNC member can be appointed. Mr. Cowan?
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship?
Yes.
Mr. Bowen? Mr. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Duque?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Abstain.
Mr. Pankey?
Abstain.
Mr. Hagopian?
Yes.
Ms. Harlos?
Yes.
Mr. Nana?
Abstain.
Mr. Michaela?
Yes.
Mr. Rufo?
Yes.
Mr. Chinyevich?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
We have 10 yeses, no nos, and 3 abstains.
All right.
Passes.
Why does that change? Okay, we have 11 yeses.
It takes a minute.
Okay, the motion passes. Before you go on, let me ask a couple questions and then jump back in. At what point does Region 5 and Region 6 constitute their vacancies?
5 is determining that this week. They're figuring that out.
This week?
Well, I don't know if it's going to take place this week. The chairs are figuring it out
Okay.
themselves.
6 has established an application deadline of March 24th, so I anticipate action soon thereafter.
Is anyone on the LNC in this room right now interested in joining the CSC? No shame if you're not, but I just need to know because I need to know what I'm gonna do next.
I'll raise my hand, just to raise my hand. I don't have to be on it, but I'm willing to be on it.
Okay.
That's the enthusiasm there.
I'm really close to making a
You're gonna be on
policy.
it. I'm always conscious of not wanting to be on.
Right, I don't wanna burden you. You have a small baby, you're here, you're pulling your weight. I just put you on another committee. Essentially, you're already doing the role, but it's quite a bit.
Madam Chair, and I also failed to mention that Miguel yesterday, which I should have mentioned yesterday, is now the vice chair of the
Why did
convention.
not miss you?
All right, so let me sort this out real quick. Let me sort this out real quick, everyone. Please pause. Do I need to make a policy manual amendment motion right now? Or is the committee okay with waiting until the regional vacancies are filled so that I can see if now, the caveat being that the regional vacancies could get filled and we might still not have someone.
Agreed.
Right. I think our preference would be to fill it as quickly as possible.
Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do, everyone. Sorry, this is happening on the fly. I'm gonna make a motion to amend the policy manual. It's page 11, I believe, where it says candidate support committee. I'm gonna strike through 3 LNC members and 4 non-LNC members of the LP, and I'm gonna change that to 2 LNC members
I'm talking to myself.
and 5 non-LNC members of the LP. So it's going from 3 to 2 and from 4 to 5. Mr. Nana?
Would it be better if we just expanded it overall?
No,
Okay.
because I can't even get enough human beings, because I
That's
have
fine.
already reached out to 3 other individuals who expressed interest, who were non-LNC members.
That's fair.
And
Just to kick the corn off,
yeah,
too.
because I've been trying to fill this vacancy for 2 months.
Okay. Just
I'll,
figure that
I'll
out.
second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further discussion?
One moment, let me just get this on
Yep,
the screen.
that's okay.
So you were moving to do what, Madam Chair?
3 to 2
Okay,
and 4 to 5. And those are the only changes.
okay, this would be 2.
Any further discussion? And I apologize, I wanted to put this through the candidate, through the policy manual committee, and I just have been too hectic of the last couple of weeks. And also kind of holding out, hoping that, but it is what it is, no judgment, let's just fix things.
I actually, sorry. The way this is worded, I don't like because it I like the language that tends to say at least 2 LNC members and up to 5, well, at least 2 LNC members. I'm not even sure how to word this. I'm sorry, I'm not at my best this weekend. My concern is, this means that the other 5 can't be LNC members if someone determines they are interested.
Do you want to amend it?
Yeah, I want to look at how we worded this.
Is it friendly?
I'll show you how friendly.
I'm not, please let me look at it. Like something like something like this. Let me give you what I would propose.
Did you say other?
I'm just moving to this screen. So I'm just copying this and I'm gonna change it. So what's the total membership? Then would be 7. So it would be, excuse me. I'm just gonna reword this. So 7 members, including a minimum of 2 LNC members.
Okay.
And that way, we could add more LNC
I like
members,
that.
but the other wording was excluding adding more LNC members.
Okay.
So I'm moving to amend Ms. McCardle's motion, do it by substitution, so it would be to strike the language entirely and insert this language.
I'll second.
Well, let's get the language.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, this was, McCardle's here was 2. So let me just find where strike is, format text. Strike through, red. Okay, this was. Format text, strike through, red, and for that. And you want it. I hate the way Google does this. 1 sec. 2. Like that. Make it blue. 2. And then this was 5. Okay, so Ms. McCardle's amendment is that top paragraph on the screen to strike 3, make it 2 LNC members, strike 4, make it 5 LNC members. My amendment was an amendment by substitution, which was to change the entire language to 7 members, including a minimum of 2 LNC members. I put LNC.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. So the language is up on the screen. Any further discussion of the amendment?
The substitution.
Substitute motion? Going once, going twice, none? Okay, then we will go to a roll call vote.
We don't have to necessarily, it's up to you, Madam Chair, to do a roll call vote on which is going to be the primary. So when you have a substitute, the question is, shall the substitute be the primary motion, or will the original amendment be the primary
Should we
motion?
do it in 2 steps?
Yes,
Okay.
with a roll call vote on whichever one wins this competition.
Okay. Okay, if there are there any objections to the substitute motion? Okay, then that's going to become the main motion. Now we'll go to a roll call vote. Unless there's further discussion. Okay, great.
Okay, now let me just set a template. Oh, I did it. No, it's not there. No, it's right here. 5. Okay, the template is set up. And if Mr. Crum would,
You're on 5.
yes.
Okay, the motion is to change the composition of the CSC to 7 members, including amendment to LNC members. Mr. Cowan?
Go pass.
Okay. Mr. Blankenship?
Yes.
Mr. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Duque?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian?
Yes.
Ms. Harlos?
Yes.
Mr. Now?
Yes.
Mr. Michaela?
Yes.
Mr. Rufo?
Yes.
Mr. Chimyevich?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
I have 14 yeses, no noes, and no abstains.
Okay, motion passes. We return the floor to you in the middle of your report.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so for the next part of the report, again, much more detail in the written report. The committee discovered a product called Voter Gravity which I highly recommend everyone look into. It really does some phenomenal things to help individual candidates at a much lower rate than what we would have to pay for the same types of data if they were doing it on their own in the campaign. So for example, this is one that was given to me. Let's say that Pat Ford is a big Second Amendment guy, but there's no way that we would know that if Pat Ford wasn't our friend and colleague that was here. But voter gravity, one of the things you can do, you can target down to specific things like mail subscriptions. So like if they are subscribed to Gun Owner Magazine, you can find out information like that through the system and target your Second Amendment advertising or mailers directly to the Pat Fords of the world who, has an underground bunker in the middle of Rhode Island. There's a lot more to it than that. It is a pretty extensive piece of software. I would note that it is typically rather expensive for candidates to use. However, an offer was made. I believe that was for subsidy from the party of $12,000 for a year, which would make that cost only $70 for a candidate to have full access to all the data, all the bells and whistles for their campaign, which I believe could have dramatic impacts on local campaigns. But we're not actually here asking that anyone take any formal action today. All that we're asking is that we allow them to give us a demo. So the committee, I don't even think a motion necessarily needs to be made for that, but just that we would like the LNC to demo it, to look into it, to see if they agree with our committee's impression of the photographic.
And I just want to say thank you so much to the committee. This is the awesome kind of research which allows us to make great decisions. So what we'll be doing as the staff is partnering with them to organize a demo, do a tech review so that we can understand how this integrates to the CRM, cost, help you guys with negotiating, all that good stuff. So thank you for this research and looking forward to doing that. And am I correct to say that the goal today is to let people know about this great work and invite people to participate if they want to check it out? Awesome. Yep. Cool. We have the budget for this, so yeah.
Very cool. Yes.
Lainey, if you could remind us how much it cost the previous tool that we were paying for the subsidy.
That's a great question. So just as some contextual information here, we have a $49,000 budget for candidate support, and that's already been fully earmarked for other things. So this would be a displacement. That said, there's a lot of things we have to look at. As far as the canvasser, is that what you're referring to? I actually don't have the information top of my head. I can check that out.
I can get it for everybody. I think it was substantially more. I was just gonna make that point.
Mr. Ford?
Yeah, I've done some initial research into the application as well. I think this is to the concerns, the highly legitimate concerns of our treasurer. This is an excellent tool to directly fundraise to the acquisition of, because of its very practical day-to-day application. I should suspect that donors would love to own a piece of this, and I'm sure that Mr. Blank and I can find a way to, much like we did with the cod piece this weekend, we can form some type of affinity marketing to it.
Yes, agreed. Any other questions before I move on to the next part?
I'm just assuming this demo could be done online that way.
Yes, it's completely virtual.
How are we on time?
That's a good question.
6.5 minutes.
Okay, I think I can zoom through the next part. Okay. One of the other items that we had, we provided within the time frame the candidate support requirements list. We also got some feedback on that from individuals on the committee. I know Todd specifically provided feedback. We are passing this information to the policy manual revision committee to look at, but there were two motions that came out of our committee to amend the standing rules section 208 qualifications for party support. The first would change the introductory line of that section to add at the committee's discretion. So it would now read, the party may financially support the candidacies of persons who meet the following requirements at the committee's discretion. The purpose behind this is that as currently written, it would appear that every candidate must meet every single requirement, but candidates come to us requesting funding at various different stages of their campaigns. So for example, if you don't have a professionally fully developed website, you can't ask for funds, but there are candidates, for example, in West Virginia, who have very high likelihood of succeeding that may need those funds to build that website. So the idea is that that would provide more flexibility on the additional requirements. Again, sending it to policy manual committee. The other, which I imagine others may have strong feelings about, as I did, but it did pass, so I will mention, was that subsection 7 would be changed to read, the candidate must be a registered libertarian and their name must appear on the ballot as a libertarian if allowed by law. The original language of that section was the candidate must use the word libertarian in their campaign in partisan elections if allowed by law, which is significantly different. And I did express to the committee that I would expressly state my disagreement with that. But if the policy committee is so willing to push it forward, that may be coming before you all to consider at some point in the near future, but I would be remiss if I did not
Okay,
state that, yes.
so you're saying you're not on board with changing it to say that the website has to say libertarian on it?
Right now, the website would be required to, for us to fund them. I'm saying I'm not on board changing it to take that requirement away.
Got it. Okay.
I would note this came up because we occasionally will invite former candidates to speak to the committee about things that we might do to improve our assistance. Mr. Oliver from Georgia spoke to us and provided feedback that putting libertarian on certain statewide campaigns sometimes can be a negative to that campaign, which is sometimes potentially accurate depending on where you're located in the country. That being said, though, my rebuttal to the committee on this was that we're not giving money to those campaigns that aren't using it, so they can run it however they want. But if the LNC, the LP, is providing funding, then libertarian should be on market. Again, personal opinion, split from the opinion of the committee. All right. And how we're in time? 3 minutes?
Yes.
All right, perfect. CSC fundraising, we've begun a discussion to try to determine ways in which that we could fundraise to provide some additional candidate support funds coming in. One of those ideas, which I'll just mention here, was that the LP should sponsor a multi-party debate, presidential debate, and invite other candidates once we've selected our candidate, do it in a really nice location, and attempt to do some fundraising off of that to show our candidate on stage against others and sort of be the front runners or forerunners of that. That's in very early stages of discussion, but I know the Convention Oversight Committee also spoke with us at a joint meeting on that and provided some input as well. Seems like it was very positive feedback overall. That feeds into the last sort of bigger thing that came out of the committee, which is to update the policy manual to allow what are called subordinate committees. Subordinate committees are separate and different from subcommittees in that subordinate committees can be made up of individuals not already within your committee for the purpose of very targeted and specific projects. I have provided that documentation into the OneNote, but I'm not sure. I would ask our secretary, is now the appropriate time for me to raise that, or would that be under new business?
Well, it's a motion coming out of your committee, so.
Okay, then I would raise that now if you could put that up on the screen for me. That would be wonderful. The way that I structured this was a proposal summary, and we may need to extend time because I wasn't anticipating doing this immediately. In its current structure, committees cannot form subordinate committees to work on specific projects utilizing outside members with specialized expertise. For clarification, in this context, committees can form a subcommittee. However, a subcommittee must be constructed of individuals, and I also noticed a typo, of individuals who are already a part of that committee. Committees cannot form subordinate committees. While this is generally not an issue, 3 specific committees may at times need the flexibility to seek out additional assistance on projects to move with agility in producing results. Therefore, we're proposing the policy manual will be updated to permit the following 3 committees to form subordinate committees as necessary. Those 3 being candidate support, convention oversight, and affiliate support. The proposed additional language would come under committee scope and responsibilities, subsection 3, affiliate support committee, subsection 6, candidate support committee, and subsection 7, convention oversight committee, to add the following language. The committee may form at its discretion subordinate committees for the narrow execution of projects as necessary where expertise and targeted assistance is required. And then I have included further down where those would go, which would, I just inserted them at the end of those individual subsections.
We're at time, we need to extend.
Okay, what do we need to extend by 5 minutes?
Move to extend by 5 minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend time on this item by 5 minutes. Any objections? Going once, going twice, okay. Time is extended by 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And who moved to extend by 5 minutes? I'm sorry, because I was looking up something.
Thank you.
Mr. Benke did?
Yes.
So, Dustin, what's to stop the committee from simply informally forming such subcommittees for your use? Why do we have to go through this as a formality?
So I did ask that question on the Commission Oversight Committee joint meeting to Karen Ann, and it's more of approval, doing it the right way, as opposed to instead of asking permission, asking forgiveness later if someone gets upset that there are people who are not on the committee doing work for the committee.
So it doesn't get called into question.
Right. It's just for legitimacy and a word that we've often used around these parts, right, which is transparency.
Right. But to be clear, there's nothing restricting you from doing so separately.
Well, yeah, there
Yeah,
is.
that's kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah. Would you like me to?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please.
Committees are directly responsible to their parent organization and have to follow the boundaries we put on it. And the boundaries we put on it is that the committees are these members and these do the work. Bringing other people into it is an end run around the parent responsibility unless they've given the child's organization that authority. That's the same reason committees can't adopt their own standing rules. They can only do what the parent assembly has allowed them to do. So a subordinate committee is having people that weren't vetted by the LNC, but vetted by the committee doing some of the work of the committee, and they do have to be specifically authorized to do that. And it more pragmatically, people generally, good, bad, or indifferent, I actually don't think this is a bad thing. I know some people mock this. I don't. A lot of times volunteers want a title. And they'll do more. You just give them a dumb title. And I don't, again, mean that. I mean, you know how I talk.
Yep.
I'm trying to be so careful.
Yep. Yes. So I just want to say that I support this in as much as it also, what it also does is that it does make the committee document the subordinate committee members, whereas workers can be done so informally, you don't know that they're doing the work on the behalf of the committee unless they're saying it. This puts it on paper in the report. These are the subordinate committee members, so everybody knows who's doing what.
Okay, we're over here next.
Awesome. I didn't realize there were such constraints on committees, so this sounds like it's a good move because it offers more flexibility. Here's what I would caution that we not do if this passes. We don't want to create a situation by committees are creating mini little companies under themselves and then not talking to staff or not talking to the board. The board gives the committee the committee gives the subcommittee the power. I can see an easy situation where there's a temptation to just organize things beneath, your committee as opposed to communicating across our committees. I'm not suggesting the candidate committee is doing that in any way. So that's a much more meta conversation we should all have about how do we leverage staff and committee collaboration. So I support this and just want to give that caution. Let's have that conversation.
And I would just note as well, that's one of the reasons it was very narrowly tailored. The language was very specifically chosen. I know, Mr. Rufo.
Yeah, so I support the idea of this motion. I just want to make sure I ask a very technical question. Is the candidate support committee, should they be the ones requesting this amendment also be made for the audit committee and the other committee? I'm just concerned that
I'm getting to that one.
Okay, 'cause
That's what I had my hand
yeah,
raised.
that concerns me that you're making a motion for those committees and they're not the ones.
Oh, no,
requesting it.
that wasn't my question. I'm sorry.
Right.
And I just want to make sure it's okay and it's
The-
allowed that they do this.
The rationale came from a conversation post-committee, or should say pre-committee, to get my words right, where we spoke on the joint meeting with convention oversight.
Okay.
And the recommendation came from that those three specific committees may have those individual projects that may arise that would need additional.
I'm good, still support them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kieran.
And this is more a question maybe to the chair. I don't like adding redundant language in the policy manual in multiple different spots that says this committee can do this, unless there's specific reasons for only those committees. Is there any reason we wouldn't want to, as an LNC, to allow any of our committees to appoint subordinate committees? To just have, you know, like up here, you know, where we have just sections where like chair is non-voting member of committees, could we just create a new section that says subordinate committees and put that language in once, and it would apply to all committees?
I think more specific.
Mr. Nan, I know you've had your hand up for a while.
If there's one that needs
I
to
mean,
be
if the
accepted,
question is directed to me, yeah, I don't think the awards committee should create a subcommittee to create more awards. I don't think that APRC should have a subcommittee with non-members on it.
It's not needed in the audit committee, and we're out of time. But
There you go, we're out of time. So if someone wants to move to extend time, that's fine, but I don't think that every single committee should have.
I would move to extend time by another 5 minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend time by 5 minutes. Are there any objections?
Object.
A little louder.
Object.
Okay, we're gonna go to a vote. Are we moving to extend time by 5 minutes? If you want time extended, raise your hand.
Sure.
Okay, if you do not want time extended, raise your hand. Oh crap, it's really close. Hold on,
Again.
let me count.
it's
wanna
that
do over?
close to, extension of time requires 2/3.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so it fails. So we're going to a vote.
I don't know if this is a privileged motion I'm about to make. As the parliamentarian, I don't know. I can look it up, or you can just guess. I actually think that this needs to be moved to the policy manual committee to come up with one language, maybe excluding some committees, and not do this redundant language under 3 committees, which is just ugly. And I think,
I don't disagree with the title.
Okay, so
And we're meeting next week, I
I
believe, right?
think that we need time extended to make that motion.
okay,
Here's what I think you can do if you support that idea, is you can vote this down.
vote it down, and the policy manual committee will take it up.
There you go.
Excellent.
So let's go to a vote.
I thought we did, but failed. But anyway,
No,
That
that
was
was
to
on.
extend time.
Just extend time.
So we're going to a vote, when our secretaries are ready.
Make that 6. Second. Chase, I'm just putting a short title here. I'll put the motion up on the screen. But the motion was, 1 second, to add this green language here. The committee may form at its discretion subordinate committees for the narrow execution of projects as necessary where expertise and targeted assistance is required. This language is being moved to be added to the Convention Oversight Committee, the Candidate Support Committee, and the Affiliate Support Committee. And the template is number 6.
Mr. Cowan,
yes,
I know, I don't know why it's doing that. I just figured it out.
I can fix it. Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Duquesne,
No.
Mr. Elliott,
Correct, Mr. Clark.
oh, we've got Clark.
So
Mr.
it's
Clark,
Dustin's motion, basically.
Mr. Elliott,
I'm sorry, I need a clarification.
Yep.
This is an affirmative vote here, puts this language in the policy manual.
Correct?
I vote no.
Mr. Ford,
No.
Mr. Pankey,
Yes.
Mr. Agopian,
No.
Ms. Harlos.
No.
Mr. Nana.
No.
Mr. Michaela.
No.
Mr. Lupo.
No.
Mr. Trinyevich.
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
No.
We have
Should
10
definitely-
no, 5 yes, 0 abstain.
Yes.
Okay, the motion fails, but it's gonna get referred to the policy manual committee, so fear not.
Also, that's my time, so thanks, everybody.
Okay, do we need a 10-minute recess?
Yes.
All right. 10-minute recess.
Second.
Okay, any objections? Going once, going twice? No, we're recessed until 10:54 a.m.
All right, so where's the pool?
And, now that we're in recess, I expect the policy manual committee is going to pass language that's similar, just prettier.
Just, and more appropriate for the committee, for all the committees
Yes.
possibly, right? Like,
Yes.
And I think that kind of does alleviate what my concern was.
Yeah.
right? Like, I was
Yeah,
really-
no, I'm in favor of this language, I just didn't like the execution.
I agree, and I think that's where I failed to miss it. We should probably just give this a policy.
Yeah.
Like, they should be.
So since we're at ease, stop a committee from just doing this rather than giving an actual title out.
They're not allowed to, I just.
Well,
He was out of the room. Yeah, and they're not allowed to, like, how would anyone know?
how would, what's the difference between that and a committee getting a group of advisors together? Like, what's the difference? Like, you can't stop them from doing it.
Well, you literally could by the LNC saying the committee's exceeding its scope and.
Right, if somebody got upset, it's one of those things where like.
If we keep video up, we'll just do mute.